Yes, Adev, you have it. Sadev?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go on, please.
I will. Hare Krishna, Mother Acyuta Gopi. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Great Deva, glories to Srila Prabhupada. You may unmute, please.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Good to be here.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we're going to start, and I'll put the verse on the screen and you'll take it over.
Sure.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Right. So today, thankfully, we have Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, Verse 9. Mandasya mandapragyasya vayo mandayushashchave nidraya hriyate naktam divacha vyartha karmabhihi. Translation. Lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities that are for naught. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The less intelligent do not know the real value of the human form of life. The human form is a special gift of material nature in the course of her enforcing stringent laws of miseries upon the living being. It is a chance to achieve the highest boon of life, namely, to get out of the entanglement of repeated birth and death. The intelligent take care of this important gift by strenuously endeavoring to get out of the entanglement, but the less intelligent are lazy and unable to evaluate the gift of the human body to achieve liberation from the material bondage. They become more interested in so-called economic development and work very hard throughout life simply for the sense enjoyment of the temporary body. Sense enjoyment is also allowed to the lower animals by the law of nature, and thus a human being is also destined to a certain amount of sense enjoyment according to his past or present life. But one should definitely try to understand that sense enjoyment is not the ultimate goal of human life. Herein it is said that during the daytime one works for nothing, because the aim is nothing but sense enjoyment. We can particularly observe how the human being is engaged for nothing in the great cities and industrial towns. There are so many things manufactured by human energy, but they are all meant for sense enjoyment and not for getting out of material bondage. And after working hard during the daytime, a tired man either sleeps or engages in sex habits at night. That is the program of materialistic, civilized life for the less intelligent. Therefore, they are designated herein as lazy, unfortunate, and short-lived. Translation once again. Lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities that are for naught. Just making sure everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we have this wonderful verse, which doesn't sound so wonderful when you first read it. Kind of sounds a little bit like a put down. Lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities that are for naught. This I was thinking of, this is our wake-up call. How often do we actually give ourselves a wake-up call? How often are we actually asking ourselves, what am I doing? What are we doing and why are we doing this? Sometimes when we get the very rude awakening that life is short, and when we get that awakening that, oh, life is short, then all of a sudden then we start thinking, oh, what am I doing? And why am I doing this? But unless and until we get that rude awakening from material nature that life is very, very short, most of us are content to go with the flow. Let life happen. Whatever comes, comes. We've got to like chill out and go with it. And here, it's not Srila Prabhupada saying this. These are the sages of Naimisharanya, you know? And what I love is that this verse comes within this chapter. They are discussing how Parikshit Maharaj received the age of Kali. But they haven't gotten to that part yet. Right at the beginning of this chapter, Sutta Goswami said, O learned Brahmins, Maharaj Parikshit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the twice-born Brahmanas. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth. One just goes to show how important astrology actually is. King Parikshit married the daughter of King Uttar and begot 4 sons, headed by Maharaj Janmejaya. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants, and at these sacrifices even the common man could see demigods. Once when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra, dressed as a king and herding the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Shaunaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaj Parikshit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of the Shudras, having dressed as a king and having struck a cow on the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. The devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life? O Sutta Goswami, there are those amongst men who desire freedom from death and get eternal life. They escape the slaughtering process by calling the controller of death Yamaraj. As long as Yamaraj, who causes everyone's death, is present here, no one shall meet with death. The great sages have invited the controller of death, Yamaraj, who is the representative of the Lord. Living beings who are under his grip should take advantage by hearing the deathless nectar in the form of this narration of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Now here's today. Lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities that are for naught. So Shaunaka Rishi has asked a very important question. Why if Kali was doing all of these horrible things, was he only punished? We can think about that. We hear about that so many times. Somebody has done something atrocious, and then they go and the judicial system gives them like a slap on the wrist. They've done horrible, horrible things, and then the judicial system says, okay, 6 months in prison, or not even 9 months of house arrest or something. And then everybody thinks, how could this have happened? What kind of nonsense is this? What kind of a judicial system do we actually have? What kind of administrators do we have? Likewise, these sages at Naimisharanya, Shaunaka Rishi, they're inquiring, this does not seem to befit a ruler like Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was so sensitive that he could detect Kali within his kingdom. How was it that Kali simply got a slap on the wrist, punished? How was he not dealt the death penalty? How did we allow this to get so out of control? What I really love is the first question they ask is, how did we allow this to get out of control? How did Parikshit Maharaj just simply punish him? Simply. He should have gotten the harshest treatment, lower than the outcasts, committing these egregious sins against this cow and a bull. How is it that he simply got a slap on the wrist? What is this? And how did we get out of control? But the follow-up is, can you please explain this to us if these incidents have connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How amazing is that? That they actually only care if it is in connection to Krishna. These sages assembled, and earlier in several chapters, we hear, just in the very first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, these sages assembled at Naimisharanya, ready and prepared to do a yajna, a nam yajna, a great sacrifice of the hearing and the chanting of the name, fame, form, qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, not only were they prepared to do this nam yajna, they were prepared to keep at it for 1,000 years, just for the sake of uplifting the entire universe during this turmoil-ridden age of Kali Yuga. These sages were prepared to sit in that spot and hear and chant the glories of the Lord for 1,000 years. Are we prepared to sit and chant japa for 2 hours? It brings a very big question, not just for the lazy and unintelligent humans, but for us intelligent, aspiring Vaishnavas as well. What are we prepared to do? Are we prepared to stick with it? Are we prepared to take up the hard tasks if we were convinced that this would change the world? Are we convinced it will change the world? Do we believe? If not, what are we doing? Are we also somehow engaging in activities that are all for naught? Or are we ready and willing to sit in that assembly for 1,000 years, only hearing the topics if they pertain to the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Because we can discuss so many things, right? Oh, the world is like this, the world is like that. There's this problem, there's that problem, there's this calamity, there's that calamity, there's this injustice and that injustice. And these sages are actually seeing that. They're inquiring about, wait, how did this happen that this age of Kali got so out of control that Parikshit Maharaj didn't even stop him? Please tell. Actually, only tell us if it pertains to Krishna. It's such a good way to check ourselves when we are getting riled up by so many things that are going to happen and that are already happening. Can we give ourselves that barometer? Okay, let me see if I get involved in this debate. Let me see if I get involved in this Facebook squabble. If it pertains to the qualities and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even within our Vaishnav culture, there are so many controversial topics. How do we get here to this material world? Were we conditioned? Were we not conditioned? Were we in the spiritual world and then we were here, but now we're here? But were we there? Are we here and there at the same time? What is this thing about the jiva? Is the jiva here or there or not or both or what? Gaur Govinda Maharaj used to say, who cares? What does it matter? Whether the jiva was there and now here or here and then there and then here and there and both, what does it matter? We're here now. What do we do with that time? Are we taking full advantage of this human form of life? Are we actually asking that question in relation to, okay, you know what? Bottom line is, I'm a jiva, and right now I'm here. I am in the midst, entangled and enmeshed in this material world experience. All of this, how you got here, how you're leaving, all this stuff. Once you leave, will you come back? All this thing. If you're going, are you staying? How do I get out of this situation right now? How do I properly utilize this human form of life right now? Do I spend it arguing uselessly? Because the material activities that are all for naught are not just your day job. It's the things that we spend arguing uselessly about. Because we could argue about the jiva and the constitutional position of the jiva until the cows come home. But if we do that, we haven't even scratched the surface of finding out the glories of the pastimes of Sri Krishna. This should be our barometer. Do these conversations actually bring me to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna? Or are they taking me further into the depths of the grip of Maya's illusionary web? Are these conversations entangling me or freeing me? And that freedom is when we grasp and hold tight to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. This verse reminded me very much of the celebrated bhajan, Bhaja Hure Mana. Bhaja Hure Mana is a beautiful bhajan by Govinda Das Kaviraj, who was during the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which make one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of saintly persons. This is exactly the sages of Naimisharanya. They are grasping tight to the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, Sri Krishna, in the association of saintly persons. The poet continues, both in the day and at night I remain sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain. For a fraction of flickering happiness I have uselessly served wicked and miserly men. What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons and family members? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hare. This is what they mean when they talk about lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life, pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities that are for naught. For whom? Who are we performing all of these activities? It is the desire and great longing of Govindadas to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hare and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend, and completely offering the Lord one's very self. And when I was reading that verse, I could not help but continuously think of this beautiful bhajan, which is definitely a wake-up call, just like this verse. What are we doing? I've had many people write me and tell me, I don't have time to chant. I don't have any time even for myself. And I've kind of asked them, well, what are you giving your time to? Well, I'm working 13, 14 hours a day, et cetera, et cetera. I have to do so many things. I have so many responsibilities. And I'm like, well, the problem is we are willing to invest 14 hours at a job that we really don't like when it comes down to it. Like everybody's, working to retire and go on vacation. Like one of the things that people look forward to most about their jobs is the weekend, vacation, and retirement. We work hard and look forward to the times when we won't be there. And yet we will dedicate 14 hours, 14 hours in a day to a job that we don't like, surrendering to a boss whom we might not even know. We might know the supervisor of our company. We might know our manager of our department. How often do we know the CEO of our company? How often have we spoken to the CEO of these different companies? It's very few. Very few times. And yet we are willing to dedicate 14 hours in a day to someone we don't even know. On what kind of faith? The faith that they will give us the money that we signed the contract for. Now, likewise, we have signed a material world contract. Are we actually looking at the fine print? Because here, Maya is the CEO. We can meet her. But she even has a boss. And we can know that boss. We can get in touch with that boss anytime we like. In fact, Maya's supreme boss says, you know me, I know you. We have an unending relationship between us. I'll invite you over to dinner. I'll invite you to my home. I'll take you into my confidence. I will tell you everything about me. You and I can have the deepest relationship ever. And we are busy saying, nah, I have too many other important things to do. And funny, Krishna never says, do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who I am? I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I could destroy your existence with a breath. In fact, he does. He exhales, everything manifests. He inhales, everything is unmanifest. I could wrap up this entire material world situation with one breath. Wouldn't even be a thought. How many times are we breathing without even thinking about it? Are we keeping track of every breath during the day? But Krishna's one breath has the ability to outdo all of us. And Krishna never says, he never holds that over us. He never uses that against us. Sometimes if we're begging to know, oh Lord, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know, like Arjuna within Bhagavad Gita. Oh Krishna, you've said you're the supreme person. I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. And Krishna says, no, you don't, no, you don't, no, you don't. And Arjuna says, I do, I want to know your position and my position in this greater scheme of things. Krishna says, okay, I'll show you. And Arjuna immediately freaks out. Oh no, it's too much. I've seen too much. I can't handle this. This is too much trauma for my brain to handle. I'm seeing eyes and arms and heads and legs and mouths, and they're everywhere. And there's fire. And my one teeny, paltry existence actually means nothing. Oh my Lord, I'm afraid. When we start to really look at our greater position in this material world, it's frightening. It is so much bigger than we are, with so many more actions and reactions than we could ever contemplate or figure out how to deal with. When we really look at how entangling karma is, we can feel afraid and depressed. Oh my Lord, there's no way out of this. Anything I do is causing negative karmic reactions. Who set this up? And Krishna says, that's the way of the material world. That's how it's set up here. These are the laws. As Srila Prabhupada so poignantly says in the purport, under the stringent laws of material nature, this is the contract for this place. It's not God's punishment. This is how this place works, because it is built for us to really understand our position here, which is incredibly minute and very precarious, teetering like a drop of water on a leaf. If anybody have ever tried to keep that drop of water on a leaf, if you've never done this, I actually recommend getting together with your friends and family, especially the little ones, and have them try and walk. You know, they used to have games like a potato sack race. You know, you do all those things, and then they used to walk, and regular people would put an egg on a spoon. You try to balance it, and you're walking. If you had a drop of water on a lily pad leaf, which they have natural oils that don't keep it steady, and then you have to walk from one end to the other, teetering, holding that leaf so that the drop doesn't fall. That's our life. We are constantly doing this and playing with our lives, playing with our time. This is why we get categorized as lazy and unintelligent, short-lived. And so we can hear these things. It's like, wow, that sounds really insulting. But the definition of lazy, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, disinclined to activity or exertion, not energetic or vigorous, encouraging inactivity or indolence. We are coasting through life. We don't see any urgency or the necessity for any kind of urgency. And then, of course, material world happens, something happens, a pandemic happens, great deaths happen, all of these, and then everybody goes, oh, wait, whoa, oh, no. This world is so much bigger than I could even, wait, let me do something. Everybody starts re-questioning their lives. But these sages were already re-questioning their lives. They were questioning everything that they were doing. And I really love that they bring it back to the point. What happened with Parikshit Maharaj? Like, how did this occur? Can you tell us? But only if the incident has some connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Luckily, it did. And so we get to find out what happens. But it's almost as though Shaunaka Rishi asks, and then he really explains himself. So he has this, please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. And then it's almost as if saying the topics of Lord Krishna alone, just saying that. Let's see. So Krishna Katha Ashrayam, about or related with the topics of Krishna. But so Katha Ashrayam, sometimes when we hear of Ashraya, we think of shelter, taking shelter. And so Krishna Katha Ashrayam, taking shelter of Krishna Katha. Tell us these things if they pertain to us taking shelter of Krishna Katha. If they pertain to us taking shelter of Krishna, and it seems as though just saying Krishna Katha Ashrayam is enough to make him go off on a tangent of how wonderful these glories of Krishna are. Please tell us if it pertains to Krishna Katha Ashrayam. Do you know what's so sweet about Krishna? That amazingly, all of his devotees are obsessed with these glories and pastimes. Why are they obsessed with these glories and pastimes? Because everybody's afraid of the same thing, the end of their lives. And this Krishna Katha Ashrayam, you know who is also taking shelter of Krishna Katha? Yamaraja. And as long as Yamaraja has been invited to these assemblies, which we have wisely done today, everybody else is off the hook. He's not going to do his job. He's going to be so engrossed in hearing Krishna Katha that he loses track of his own day job. Are we finding that joy in our 1 hour, half an hour, 2 hours of chanting? Krishna Katha Ashrayam, are we taking shelter of Krishna Katha as the only thing that can help us, as the medicine of all medicines, as the real cure for everything that is happening in this age? Now, that doesn't mean forget everything. Parikshit Maharaj actually wasn't giving up his day job at this point. He was doing his duty being a king, a devotee king, because that's what Krishna wanted. So he's going through being a devotee king, and then all of a sudden he sees this horrific scene. Now we get this, but Krishna Kata Ashrayam, what they know is that everybody who is short-lived and lazy and unintelligent within Kali Yuga, we're all trying to sidestep death. We're all trying to make like a cool dodge move around death. Anybody ever play basketball and you've got one of those like fake out moves? You bounce the ball this way, but then you fake them out and you go the other way. Haha, that's what we're all trying to do with death, as if Yamaraj can't catch us. As if it would be difficult for Yamaraj to like follow us if we moved zigzag instead of straight lines. And these sages at Naimisharanya are saying, we actually have the antidote. Everybody who's looking to sidestep death, we've done it because he's here. But now that death is here, now Yamaraj is here, we have the responsibility of keeping our yagya going. This nam yagya, this yagya of the name, fame, form, qualities of our Supreme Lord, Krishna Kata Ashrayam. This is the yagya that they're performing, the chanting of the holy names. And everybody is involved. How wonderful. And it's almost as though Shaunaka Rishi he can't go one moment. He says Krishna Kata Ashram, and then he has to expound on the glories of Shri Krishna before we circle back around to the answer of his question. Is this us? Are we looking at our lives and seeing Krishna's mercy, Krishna's shelter in these different circumstances? And when we see Krishna's mercy, are we able to stop and appreciate it? Are we thinking, that's my Krishna? Or do we go on with life like everything is normal? Are we thanking Krishna for each breath that we're taking? And the moment we say, oh, thank you, Krishna, for this breath, are we then thinking, and my Krishna is so amazing that out of fear of him, it says the wind blows. This very breath I offer to my Krishna. Oh my goodness, my Krishna is so amazing that his breathing controls the entire creation. Are we taking shelter of Krishna? Do we know anything about Krishna to take shelter of? That brings in another question. In order to take shelter, sometimes we have to know something about the person. Or we find ourselves in the situation where we are at work. We have no idea what our boss is like. We have no idea if they're a good person or a bad person. We have no idea what their morals are like, what their integrity or character is like, most often. And we have what they show the world, but we don't know what they're like internally. And yet we dedicate ourselves to these people. We surrender to our jobs and the bosses they're in. Constantly telling ourselves, I don't have time for anything else. I have to make this part over here work. And Krishna says, no problem. Just give me a few minutes of your time. No, Krishna, I can't surrender to you. I'm too busy surrendering to that guy over there. And Krishna says, but I'm the supreme boss. Everyone is working under my direction, even material nature. No, Krishna, I can't surrender to you because I'm too busy surrendering to that guy over there. And so then the question happens when we have our wake-up call, is that actually going to make you happy? Of course not. I know it's not going to make me happy. In fact, I don't even like being there. What I look forward to most are the days when I don't have to be there. The vacations, the weekends, the retirement. Well, then why are we striving so hard? And when will we invest at least equally in ourselves? Maybe we don't stop all of the activities. But what if we were able to at least invest equally in ourselves, as much as we do for others? What if we were able to just surrender equally to Krishna as much as we surrender to everything else? Before we even get to the point of surrendering more to Krishna, Krishna is just asking, okay, don't even make it equal surrender. Just give me, I'll take less surrender. We refuse, knowing that it makes us upset, knowing that it makes us unhappy. And yet we have causeless unwillingness to serve, while we continue serving other people who we don't know and who don't know us for the best and the better part of our lives. I want this to be my own wake-up call. I want to examine my day and look at, what am I doing? How am I spending these hours? Time is a very important thing. How am I spending my time? And does it have anything to do with Krishna Katha? Have I taken shelter of Krishna Katha today? Sometimes I might not think that I can do that all day, every day, but at least in some small form. Have I taken shelter of Krishna Katha today? And if I haven't, how do I change that before such time as I go to sleep? Because everybody knows that the next day is not promised. And yet we function as though it absolutely is. We go to sleep with faith that the next day we are going to wake up. And if somebody doesn't wake up the next day, we are angry with God. And God says, I've given you a foolproof way to circumvent all of this. All you have to do is pay attention to me. No, 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 I can't pay attention to you. But what I can do is ask you why you are so cold-hearted and hard-hearted and evil-minded that you would do this to me. That you would stop all of this person's activities. Why would you take them away from me? Why would you put me through all these troubles and tribulations? Why are you doing all this to me? Why? Krishna is constantly saying, these are the laws of the material world. This is how this place works, and you are stuck in that place. We can untangle you from that. No, I don't want to be I don't want to be unentangled. I want to remain entangled, but I also want to put the blame on you. This is us. The harsh words are lazy and unintelligent, but really, we are apathetic. No sense of urgency. Not thinking any further than, what is the next enjoyable moment for me? Or what we think might be the next enjoyable moment for me. Because usually what we think is the next enjoyable moment doesn't really turn out to be the next enjoyable moment. We'll spend a whole week looking forward to the weekend, and then on the weekend something else happens and we're not happy. Or we spend the whole time looking forward to the weekend. Friday comes, I'm just trying to get through Friday, just trying to get through Friday, just trying to get through Friday. Saturday comes, we are so tired, we can't do anything on Saturday. And then Sunday, we spend the whole day lamenting that we didn't do anything on Saturday and that another week is coming. Where was the happiness? Anybody want to tell? Where was the happiness? All week, we are lamenting. I'm at this job I don't like, doing this job I don't want to do. I don't feel like doing it. There's all these problems. Even if we love the job, there's always going to be dualities and there's going to be problems. I'm just looking forward to the weekend, looking forward to the weekend, looking forward to the weekend. Saturday, weekend comes. I'm too tired to do anything. I can't do this. Sunday, oh no, what did I do? Where was the happiness? There was no happiness there. So all the things that we think will bring us happiness, we are striving so hard for those. Krishna continues to tell us through unlimited examples, my dears, my beloved spirit souls, that's not going to bring you happiness. Looking forward to the next free moment is not going to bring you happiness, but Krishna Katha Ashrayam will. Taking shelter of Krishna Katha will actually bring us moments of happiness. lasting moments of happiness. It will even stave off death. Or Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purport to that song Bhaja Mana, he has a very poignant purport. And within that purport, he says that if we take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna Kata Ashrayam, then we are easily finding ourselves able to cross this ocean of material existence. But if we do not, one's path to hell is certain and confirmed. And sometimes we can think, what do we mean? Path to hell, certain and confirmed. But that hellish existence is not something that happens after death. That hellish existence is something that happens now, every day. I think it was Shakespeare who brought up the point that heaven and hell, no, it was within Paradise Lost, that heaven and hell are contained within the mind. They can be contained within our interactions with others, within our daily lives. It is simply a matter of where the mind is situated. Which is why in this song Bhaja Mana, this poet is addressing the mind and the heart. Just worship Krishna. Take shelter of Krishna. Do what these sages are asking us to do. Not because they hate us and they hate our material lives and they want to ruin us, but because they love us and they're really thinking about what is best for us. We have been complaining for thousands of years about what is happening to us. These sages are saying, we found a fix. Just do this, just take shelter. Oh, my mind. The place where both the spiritual world and all of the hellish planets can reside. Oh, my mind, please just take shelter of Krishna, and that can change everything. It can change the hellish existence of my mind into the spiritual abode of Krishna in an instant. And the more that we take shelter, the more lasting those effects are. So for this, I'm really trying to remind myself, one, let this be my wake-up call to really take stock of what I'm doing in my life. But also, let this be my day-to-day barometer. What am I getting involved in? And do these arguments have any connection with the pastimes of Sri Krishna? Do these stories that I'm listening to have any connection to the pastimes of Sri Krishna? Have I taken shelter of Krishna Katha today? If no, let me change that. Let me give at least some time to Krishna. He's not even asking for all of it. And then let me take stock. How much time am I giving to everyone and everything else? And how much time am I actually giving to Krishna? And this is not in a way of shaming ourselves so that we feel eternally bad, but just an honest way of really taking stock of where our investments are going. If we look at it in terms of investments and returns, where are our investments going and what returns are we getting back from that? Krishna says, you invest in me, I will reciprocate tenfold, more than you could ever wish for. My boss cannot say that. Any boss cannot say that. Any boss is like, well, you know what? If you just come to work for 4 hours a day, I will pay you for 2 days worth of work. The boss would think that's ridiculous. You only came to work for 4 hours. I'm paying you for 4 hours. Maybe 3.5 if you took a lunch break. But Krishna says, you invest 2 hours, I will bless you for 2 days, 3 days worth of whatever you need. Protection, shelter, love, affection, all of it. I'll give it all to you. What a bargain. Right? Love of God is on sale. And we refuse. So I want to stop refusing. I want to stop looking at Krishna and saying, I have better things to do. I don't think I can surrender today. I want to surrender at least half as much as I surrender to everything else in life. I walk out into the street and I cross the street, surrendering to the fact that I am putting faith that other drivers will do what they're going to say they're going to do. They're going to obey the laws. I walk out with the faith that the government is going to enforce those laws. Do I have faith that Krishna is telling me what is true? Do I have faith that Krishna will carry me across the ocean of these stringent laws of material nature? Do I have any faith that these laws of material nature will actually work on me? Even after having seen it work on so many people, even after being in situations where I think, how did I get into this situation? And Srimad Bhagavatam comes in. Those are the stringent laws of material nature. That's how you got into this situation. Do I believe? What am I prepared to do if I do believe? Do I believe that this Krishna Katha can change and save the entire world? And if so, am I willing to sit for as long as it takes and take shelter of the holy name, fame, form, and qualities of Krishna? So this is our wake-up call. But yes, also, within it are so many questions that we can ask ourselves. And because Sadeh Prabhu was saying that everybody is fond of questions, I will open it up here so that we can discuss.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, if you have a question, can you raise up your hand and Sadeh will call you up? I have one question, please. Just now you mentioned that the love of God is for sale or is on sale. So how much is it costing? What's the cost of the love of God?
Isn't that something? Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that Lord Nityananda has set up a marketplace of love of God. Wholesale price. Before, you used to have to surrender and do all these things and all whatever. It's so much yagyas and tantras and mantras and pujas and all of these rituals you'd have to do just to even get close to the idea of love of God. But when Lord Nityananda sets up the marketplace of the holy name of God, kind of like when you go to Costco or BJ's, the price is simply one drop of faith. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Nityananda is going to every person begging, please take it, please take love of God. And so many people were refusing. No, I don't want that today. And Nitya is begging, please take love of God. Just please. I've tasted this love of God, but God, it is so sweet. Please take it. He says, even if he sees the glimmer of a tear within the eye of someone who has been moved by this idea of love of God, he gives it. Think about it. You don't even have to shed the tear. But if the glimmer is there, just the thought of surrender is there in your mind. Just the glimmer, the shadow of a thought of surrender, that's enough for Nityananda. That's enough for him to give love of God on complete sale. So what's the price? Our price is faith. Do we have faith that it will work? Do we even have a shadow of faith that it will work? That's enough.
Thank you. You mentioned Kata and Yamaraja, and we have new seekers here. They may not know what is Kata, Krishna Kata, and who is Yamaraja. So maybe you can throw some little light for them to understand those phrases.
So Krishna Katha refers to histories about Krishna. Simply put, these histories, the pastimes of the personality of God, these stories about the personality of God, and the interactions that God has with unlimited devotees. And these pastimes are so important because they give us that faith. We are reestablishing a relationship with God. And the emphasis is on reestablishing. We've already had it. Sometimes it's gotten a little muddled and confusing and muddied because other people have gotten involved. But we've always had this unending relationship with God, one of unfailing love on God's end, and one of very flickering love on our end. So we are reestablishing this relationship with God and hearing these pastimes, Hearing the qualities of the Supreme Person and hearing all of these histories helps us to know who we're in a relationship with. You ever think about, you hear about arranged marriages? And the first thing when people hear about arranged marriages, oh no, I couldn't do that. How could I spend the rest of my life with someone I don't even know? Well, that's us with God. We have an unending relationship that spans lifetimes, and we are not even getting to know that person. What is God like? What does God like? What does God dislike? Here we are in a situation where we find ourselves with Vedic knowledge. There are many traditions that don't even allow people to say the name of God. Not only here does God say, okay, here's my name, but God says, here are unlimited names for me. Call me by whichever one you like. We will be intimately connected. Not only here's my name, but here's my mother's name, my father's name, my brother's name, my sister's name. Here's my family member's name. That's my cousin. That's my other cousin. That's my cousin. That's my family member. You too are an eternal family member of mine. How can we have faith in that? By constantly reciting, hearing, seeking out the qualities and the pastimes of our Supreme Friend. Somebody says, oh, we can be friends. And you think, well, how's that possible? I know nothing about you. You know nothing about me. So this journey of life is the process of getting to know God and God reacquainting themselves with us. And as vulnerable as we are with God, that is how vulnerable God will be with us. So that is Krishna Katha, and also why Krishna Katha is so important. Because in this process of having this relationship, we've got to get to know one another. As for Yamaraj, the concept of the devil is not exactly how Vedic science defines this overarching entity. Yamaraj is a post, a position, kind of like a president or a prime minister. He happens to be the prime minister of judicial affairs within the entire creation. So he's in charge of passing out judgment. He's in charge of tallying up all the activities of living entities and seeing whether they are beneficial or not beneficial, whether they are working in accordance with the laws of material nature or whether they are not working in accordance with the laws of material nature. And so when he finds whether they are or are not, then there are benefits and sometimes punishments. And the person in charge of meeting all of that out to different living entities is Yamaraj. And so he is called the Lord of Death. He rules over all of these topics, the darker things that no one really wants to deal with. And so, but also to note, Yamaraj is a great devotee of Krishna. Yamaraj loves to hear the pastimes of Sri Krishna. The only problem is, because he has this thankless task of being the Lord of Judgment and passing the judgment, no one wants to invite him anywhere. He has a very beautiful palace, but right near the palace are the hellish planets that are giving all of these different punishments to different living entities. And so Yamaraj, we hear, he laments often. No one really comes to see him, because who really wants to be over there? It's a very bleak situation. His office work is not great. No one wants to see him. Nobody really invites him anywhere. And so Yamaraj is always longing to be in the association of devotees. So Shaunaka Rishi also says, in the association of saintly persons, let us take shelter of Krishna Katha. We can stave off the effects of Yamaraj and all of his judicial hold on us in the association of saintly people. And Yamaraj often laments. He's like, I don't have any saintly people. It's just me. He is the saintly person. He goes to his day job, and for all of the people who work under him, who are called Yamadutas, for all of those people, and there are it's like an entire race of people. Bhagavatam is so expansive in its explanations of how this world and universe works. So for all the people that work under him, he is like their supreme lord. It's like looking at your boss and thinking that is all in all. That is all there is. And so oftentimes Yamaraj has to explain to those who are working under him, actually, I am not the supreme person. And they're always flabbergasted. What do you mean you're not the supreme person? We've been working under you, taking shelter of you. You give us our pay, you give us our homes, you give us our livelihood. Aren't you the all in all? And he says, well, no, I'm very powerful for you, but no, I'm not the all in all. There is somebody above me. That person is Sri Krishna. And so you should know that when you see those people who have taken shelter of Krishna, who have taken shelter of these stories and these pastimes of Krishna, the personality of Krishna, this Krishna Katha, says you stay far, far away from them. Don't even look in their direction. It's not worth it. It creates lots of problems. It's like when you meet somebody on a telephone call, right? And the call will be recorded for quality assurance purposes. And then at a certain point, you realize you're not getting the right answer. Can I speak to a supervisor? This is what it's like. And then when the person asks, I need to speak to your supervisor, then the worker goes, oh, no, 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 no. So this is what happens with the Yamadutas and Yamaraj. When they get in touch with devotees start asking, I need to speak to your supervisor. And then they have to go to Yamaraj. And then Yamaraj has to go to somebody above him. And then then he gets in touch and he has to tell them, look, this is not great for universal affairs. It's not a good look for me. You're embarrassing me as your supervisor. So this is Yamaraj. Yamaraj is a great devotee. And he has such incredible respect for other devotees. Think about that. He is a ruler of planets. Several planets. He's in charge of them all. And yet within him, he has the humility to have such respect, such affection for other devotees of Krishna. Me, I'm not a ruler of anything at all. And yet, Yamaraj can somehow find it within himself to give that respect to other devotees. So how amazing. So that is Yamaraj, and that is the glory of Krishna Katha.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother Acyuta Devi. So we go to Mr. Michael Ajiman. Please unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother, for these wonderful lectures. Indeed, this is an awakening call for us all. And I also thank our daddy, Prabhu Jana Chatusdas, for inviting us to this wonderful platform. My question is about the chanting of the holy names of the Supreme Lord. I'm somebody that sometimes I wake up early in the morning and then chant, but because of this strong mind that has been our prison, that it goes off and on during chanting. Maybe in the first round, I may be focused on the holy names of God by chanting. By getting to the second round or the third round, then you see the mind goes out and comes in. It goes out, and how to control the mind. And sometimes I feel that I'm not being sincere to the Lord in chanting. So I put a stop to it. So I don't know if it is good to put a stop while chanting when the mind is disturbing you in chanting. And how do you bring the mind back? I try to bring the mind back, but within some few minutes, it goes off again. Maybe I'll see myself chanting, but my mind is not there. And when I see that, then I put a stop to it. Is it good to put a stop to it, or to continue chanting? That's my question. Thank you.
If we stop chanting, the mind is one, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So then that's a problem. We can't let the mind win. And Arjuna, within Bhagavad Gita, he has this same dilemma. Oh, Krishna, you're telling me that the mind can be my greatest friend or my greatest enemy? Well, it depends on me, but I feel like trying to control the mind is more difficult than trying to control the wind. And Krishna doesn't say, Arjuna, no, it's not. Krishna says, actually, yeah, you're right. In fact, it's even more difficult than that. It's more difficult than controlling the wind.
Yeah.
In fact, every living entity up until Brahma, the creator of all of this material creation, from Brahma down to the ant, every living entity is struggling with the six senses, which include the mind. But Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna, stop all the activities. I'm not accepting it unless you're perfect. He tells him, just keep going. You try your best and you keep going. And then you depend on me for the rest. I will carry what you lack and preserve what you have. The mind may never be steady, but it will get better if we keep going. It's like when you're working out, and then the first day after you've worked out, you feel like you're waddling around like a penguin. Every muscle is sore. And if you stop working out, your body will never change. If you keep working out, you'll start to actually understand that pain is normal. That is the feeling of my muscles doing something new. That is the feeling of my body expanding. Things are happening. So the mind being flickering, trying to drag us here and there, that's what the mind does. That's its function. But if we stop, it'll never get better. We'll never exercise our muscle of faith. That will never get stronger. But the more that we chant and the more that we continue to just say, okay, Krishna, I know I'm not perfect. I may not even be perfectly sincere, but I'm just trying my best. For this next round, I will just try my best. And for the round after that, I'm going to try my best. And at the beginning of each round, we can just try and gently bring the mind back. I'm just trying my best. That is all Krishna wants from us. He doesn't say, you have to be perfect for me to bless you. He says, in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and even a little advancement is enough to save one from the greatest type of fear. A little advancement means we're not perfect. That means we've made a little advancement. And Krishna says, even that is enough. I'll accept it. So our goal, we don't have to think our goal is to become perfect in this one chanting session. Our goal is simply to try our best and then to keep trying. Because Krishna's miracles will absolutely come they will come every time without fail. If we try our best, Krishna will reciprocate even more. It's like we said at the beginning, it's like going to work for 4 hours and getting paid 2 days worth. That's Krishna. We think, oh, all I did was chant for 1 or 2 hours and I wasn't even that focused. I wasn't even that sincere. But look at how Krishna will continue to bless us. Krishna says, you keep chanting, you'll get there. You keep chanting, the sincerity will come. Because we are reconditioning ourselves. I was kind of likening it to babies the other day. Babies, they start learning to walk. They stumble, they fall down, they cry. But what they don't do is stop trying. They don't just sit there and think, you know what, that's it. I'm never walking. Just going to crawl for the rest of my existence. They get up and they try again. And this is the conditioning, the reconditioning. In our minds, we are taking these tottering steps on the path of devotion. We're reacquainting ourselves with this spiritual path, and sometimes we fall. That's natural. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. We're going to have thoughts and ideas and actions that we might not be the most proud of. And then the next day, we try again. We are going to have days where we feel like, oh, I didn't even chant 16 rounds. I just chanted 1. Then we try again the next day. Maybe sometimes still with that same 1 round. Maybe the next day we're able to up it to 2 rounds. Maybe we stay at 2 rounds for 3 months. The point is that we keep trying. We don't let the mind win. Because when the mind wins, we're lost. What comfort is the mind ever giving us? None. It's constantly poking at us. Oh, but you don't have this. Oh, look at this person over there. They've got that. You don't have that. Oh, look at that person's body over there. Their body looks like that. Your body doesn't look like that. Oh my God, you know what that person can do? They can do the same thing you're doing right now, but better. And if you get better than that person, then there's another person over there who will always be better than you. You have to protect your position. You have to be the best. And there is no best. At any moment, somebody's going to be better than you. You have to tear them down so that they will not be better than you. But they're always better than you. They're always going to look better, be smarter, find a different way to do things. This is the mind. So the mind is not bringing us happiness and joy. But Krishna's name will, if we stick with it. We must find a way to stick with it. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that question, Mr. Achiman. I think we have a couple of questions in the chat room. But Acyuta, if you wouldn't mind, we'll take a couple from the chat rooms.
Sure.
I also wanted to share with you, Madam Acyuta, lots of the devotees here today are kind of new, more or less like Namahata group, brought in so kindly by God Brother Jana Chakshi Prabhu. He has his group with all these amazing devotees. So from time to time, they come in here and partake the Srimad Bhagavatam class. So it's nice that they are here when you are speaking so that you may be able to break down some of our technical terms for them to understand. So thank you. So we see there is a question from Mr. Kwesi Kumi Jonathan. So his question is, please, can I get further explanation of what it means when one says we have to take shelter of Krishna? What does it mean, taking shelter of Krishna?
Yeah, that's actually a perfect question for everybody.
Very, yes.
Anybody, old devotees, new people, whatever it is. Surrender and taking shelter is not a concept new to any religious pathway. It's not even something that's new to any kind of spiritually minded or any broad-minded person. Surrender is even spoken about in AA meetings and in 12-step programs. One of the first things that they have you recognize is that what I am facing in life is much bigger than my capacity to handle it, to control it, to fix it. It is outside of my control. So now I must recognize that there is someone much larger than me, a personality, a force, right? An existence of a being that is much more powerful than me, who is able to handle these certain situations that I'm in. This is our situation in all of life. It's a constant coming to the conclusion that what I'm facing is much bigger than me. And that's what these sages are looking at in this forest. They're asking each other questions. They're looking at the state of the world and thinking, This world is much bigger than all of us. This problem that the world is facing is much bigger than just us few sages here in a forest. It's a problem of universal concern. How do we get out of that problem? And so this is us looking at our lives. How do we get out of the different problems of life? Who am I in this life? Am I meant to just work until whatever age until I can retire? And then what? What do I do after that? What is life without my job? So many people you see, they won't retire. They refuse to retire from their jobs because they have nothing else outside of it. And so when they don't have a life outside of their job, they don't have a cause or a purpose, they stay in that job. And what does that do? The people at work know you from what, 9 to 5? Sure, they have some affection for you, but it's not quite the same as that deep-seated affection that people want in the heart. But that's all they got, so they stubbornly, they cling to it. This is all I have. Without my job, then they lose their identity. They lose a sense of who they are. They lose a sense of their purpose and what they were working for. So these sages are looking and saying, this is a much bigger universal problem. People are working and they're not getting the satisfaction that they need deep in their hearts. What is the only thing that's going to help them? And these other sages say, well, surrender. Taking shelter of the fact that we are now understanding there are circumstances outside of my control, much bigger than me, more than I can handle. I need to approach someone who actually can handle them. I need to speak to a universal supervisor. With Vedic science and Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the study of explaining how that universal supervisor is Krishna. It's the science of explaining and trying to really delve deeply into what is this pathway of surrender? How can it benefit us? How can it show us our actual position in life, Krishna's actual position in relation to us in life, and how the two coincide? So taking shelter is something that is quite common. Taking shelter of Krishna is where we're getting into the details of something that's a little bit new. Because here we have an image of God which is very, very different from many other traditions. Here God says, I'm a friend. I'm your well-wisher. I just want what's best for you. And here we can say, oh, but you're going to judge me. And I just heard about a Yamaraja who's a superintendent and he's in charge of judgment and death. And you're doing all this. God's like, no, I'm not. That's the laws of this place, this material world setup. My aim and job is to be your friend. And to remind you that you and I have an eternal, everlasting friendship that can never, ever, ever be broken, no matter who you are, no matter what body you're in, no matter what situations your soul is in, we are always going to be friends and I'm always going to love you. And then we continue to bring up our protests, our protestations. No, because that person over there told me that you can't be like this. That person over there told me that you can't be that merciful, so I don't believe you. Which is amazing. We project so many things on God based on what someone else has told us. That's like Sadeh Prabhu, if I told you, you know what, Sadeh Prabhu, I can't speak to you anymore because I heard from one other devotee that you weren't so great at organizing things and at being managerial. And then, if you're looking at me saying, but did we ever have this interaction? Like, no, but that person said that they heard from somebody else, that you're not such a great manager. So I can't talk to you anymore, Prabhu. That's it. Finished. Like, but all the years I've known you, I've seen you grow up. I've seen you become this person and all of it is just finished. I'm like, yes. And not because of anything you did. Because I heard from that person who heard from that person who heard from that person. This is our relationship with God. Tenuous, and we are ready to throw it away at a moment's notice based on somebody over there who said somebody over there who said somebody over there said God doesn't like you. So we can look at our situations in life, but we have to separate them from actually what is Krishna's thought on the matter. And usually Krishna's thoughts on the matter are, I just want to have a relationship with you. However we get that to happen, just think of me. Just add me into your day. Offer your heart to me. Right? Krishna says, offer your prayers to me. But what is that really? God is now saying, come have a conversation with me. Offer your heart's longings and yearnings. Offer them. Tell me what's going on with you. Really, truly, open yourself up. Let me know what's happening. I just want to be your friend. This is our relationship with Krishna. And that's actually what Krishna is usually concerned with. Usually we're stuck saying, oh, but how did you let that war happen over there? And how did you let this happen to those people and that person and these people? And God, how could you have done this? God's like, how can you prove that was me? One, that wasn't me. That was people and material nature working with people. Other people did that. And they're like, but you're the supervisor. You know. He's like, but I am the supervisor. But also the people have free will. Everybody has got that free will to act or not act how they see fit. And so Bhagavad Gita says so many times that Krishna is within everything, but still aloof from it and above it all. And so this taking shelter of Krishna is the reclaiming of our relationship with Krishna outside of what everybody else will say, outside of what everybody else will do. It's us getting tunnel vision and focusing on, okay, wait, besides all of that, what is actually my relationship with Krishna? Because 99% of the time, usually Krishna is not condemning us. Krishna is saying, over and above all, no matter what your mind is going to tell you, no matter what your parents are going to tell you, no matter what anybody else is going to tell you, I just want to love you. Just think of me. And I will think of you twice as much. Offer your heart to me, and I'll give mine to you 10 times as much. So taking shelter is the beginning of that beautiful relationship. It's the understanding that this world is out of my control. My own life is out of my control. I have to find solace. I have to find that safe space where there is someone who can control some of these things and help me. That safe space is at the lotus feet of Krishna, at the lotus feet of the divine supreme person who is just our friend.
Thank you so much, Mother Acyuta. I hope, Mr. Jonathan, you're satisfied with the answer to your question. There is another question from the chat room, Mother Acyuta. Like in the US and most of the Western world, polygamy is not supported. No, it's unlawful. It's illegal. Whereas in other parts of the world, like Africa and some other cultures, it is allowed. So there is this question from Mr. Edwin Kuma. Yeah, Edwin Kuma. He wants to find out, what does Krishna say about polygamy?
I kind of want to fire back that question because it feels a little bit out of context. I kind of feel like, what's the context around that question? Why are you asking that? Like, what is it that you really want to? Polygamy is such a big, overarching situation. So what is it that you want to find out about? Because if it's simply a rule of the law of the land, does it matter? Because in America, you can't do it without consequence, without lawful consequence. In other places, you might be able to do it without lawful consequence. And then the law of the land will have different laws. So what are we trying to find out? Are we trying to find out?
Mr. Edwin, can you throw a little more light to the question he asked? Can you expand on it a little bit?
Now you're on the spot.
Mr. Edwin.
In
Well,
the meantime, we can take another question and then come
yeah,
back
yeah.
for more clarification.
Anyone else with any question, please, you may indicate that by raising your hand, and then we'll call on you. Okay, Sam, you may unmute, please.
Hare Krishna, Acyuta Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, my distance just went up. Recently, a friend of mine, I showed a video of the Yatra, Rath Yatra in Jagannath Puri to her. And she's never seen a scene like that with so many people, because as far as she's concerned, she only knows about Christianity. Mm-hmm. And in Christianity is very predominant in Africa. So she asked me, how come there's so many people, within that Rath Yatra? And I said to her, just because we don't know in Africa, it doesn't mean that, Hinduism is very narrow religion. So the question is, how come and why does Krishna hide himself from people in Africa? Why is it so? Because in Africa, perhaps only like 1% of the population knows about Hinduism. And even in, if it's not ISKCON, perhaps we might not have actually known anything about Krishna at all.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question.
Thank you, Sam.
Not just for Africa. Like, what about people in the Philippines? What about people in the Amazon who have never met devotees of Krishna? Right? You hear so many times within history there are missionaries, and they go with the word of God. And my question always for religionists was, if you say that if I'm not worshiping Jesus, then I'm going to hell. And then people say, yes, for eternity. I'm like, but what if I live in a small village hut in the Philippines and I don't know about Jesus at all? What if I don't even know English or any of these things? They're like, well, sorry, that's it for you. And I always used to think, wait a second. So you mean to tell me that God would put me in a situation with no chance of redemption? This overreaching supreme personality that you're telling me is God, who is all loving like a father, would put me in a situation where there's no chance of redemption ever, no way of getting out, no way of anything. I wouldn't even hear about it. I just doomed to hell for forever. And at that point, religionists usually they don't want to talk to me anymore. Because that question gets very difficult to answer. So the question is, why did Krishna hide himself from Africans in Africa? Srila Prabhupada's answer is he didn't. At the beginning of a book called The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, in the intro, right? So the first few pages, not even the actual meat of the book. In the intro, Srila Prabhupada states that Krishna has advented himself on every single one of the 7 continents of this entire world. It is only that we have uncovered the ones in India. Krishna has advented himself everywhere. Everywhere. It's just that these are the ones that we've uncovered and we've been able to put name to. Which means in little villages of Africa, in little villages in the Philippines, in little villages in the Amazon that no one has ever gone to, there are forms of Krishna there. So then we think, well, how is it then? And then we don't know about it. But if somebody says, oh, I have this fruit. It's like, where's this fruit from? It's like, oh, this fruit is from Argentina. And it's like, really? It's like, yeah, this fruit's from Argentina. It's like, well, what's it called? Manzana. And then you look at the fruit and you're like, that's just an apple. And then the person says, no, it's manzana. And you're like, well, but also it kind of looks like an apple. You cut it open, tastes like an apple. This is an apple. No, it's a manzana only. It's like, well, in English, we call it an apple. But it's the same fruit that everybody's talking about. So we might get a view of God, of this divine person. Same attributes, same qualities, same characteristics, similar pastimes. And yet they will just simply call by a different name. Krishna says, I have unlimited ones. Krishna is able and willing to speak every single language, including those of the animals. And so Krishna's avatars do not just span human forms. There's a boar form and a tortoise form and a half man, half lion form and a fish form and all these things. So Krishna does not just say, oh, this Krishna consciousness is only for humans. Every single soul has the ability to get to know the Supreme Person in the way that speaks to their heart. Krishna is ready and willing to relate to us in the way that speaks to our heart. So if you have been to a tribe in Africa, and there are many spiritual personalities, celestial personalities, you may very well find one out that has some very similar characteristics to Krishna. We hear within the Vedic paradigm that there are, sometimes the number gets bigger and smaller depending upon the categories, but at least 33 million celestial people who have varying degrees of powers. 33 million. Now that's not just one region. They've spread out over the globe. So it is not surprising that we are going to see so many different cultures with so many different celestial people and personalities in charge of rain, in charge of crops, in charge of fire, in charge of wind, in charge of the earth, in charge of so many different things. That is not surprising. And so what is wonderful is even within the introduction, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out Krishna is not just in India. He is all over the surface of the globe. Just it's up to us to excavate and find out, which means we have to go in to these cultures with an open mindset. Rather than trying to say, I'm going to give you my version of spirituality, and if you're not following that version of spirituality, then you're going to hell for forever. That means sometimes we have to listen to what the spirituality has been there. We have to find out, who have these people been worshiping? We might find, there's my Lord. We might find that there's not so much difference after all.
Thank you so much, Mother Acyuta, for the answer to that beautiful question. So Jana Chakshu Prabhu, I believe, has a question. Jana Chakshu is the gardener of these beautiful flowers we're seeing on this forum today. So I think he has a question or something to say. Prabhu, please unmute yourself, Shri Jan. Let me see. Okay, good.
Krishna Mataji, present my humble obeisance, Prabhupada, grace to you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question. I think Mona just answered, and I think I've gotten the answer to the question I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Maybe you may go ahead and ask, it might benefit others.
No, I wanted to find out, about Krishna. That is it that Mother, I mean, made some statement in regards to the Lord being in all the other 6 continents apart from Asia, and the Lord can be realized in the same form but with different languages. So I wanted to ask, Is it that Krishna can only be found in Krishna consciousness, or is just the name Krishna that differs from the other names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Like in Africa, in my country, we call God Onyame or Onyankopon, but the name is not Krishna, but the attributes look almost the same as what we call Krishna. So I think Mother has already just answered the question, so there's no need me asking it again.
All right, thank you so much, Jam Chakshu Prabhu.
I think it's wonderful for us to like find out these things, it's
Yeah,
beautiful for us to find out. One interesting thing to note is there was a powerful incarnation of our Supreme Lord by the name of Parshuram. And he was quite angry with the kings of the earth. He thought they're not doing the right things. Better we throw out the whole plan and start over. And so he would go and wage war and kill off these kings that were not acting properly. And what they had said was in Srimad Bhagavatam and so many other places that so many of the kings fled to different places, including Africa. So these kings who were part of Vedic history fled all over the world. And so what you find is there are places in Russia and there are rivers with names that are Sanskrit names. And you think, what? And there are places with Sanskrit names. You'll get deities, different name, like you said, Prabhu, same attributes. And I think it is wonderful to explore these things and look and see. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who's one of our wonderful teachers, previous spiritual teachers and mentors and guides, he says, it is so important for us to walk into these places and think, just look at how my Lord is being worshipped here. It might look different than the way we do it, but instead of bristling and thinking this is wrong and only my way is right, what if we extended that and thought, look how wonderfully my supreme friend is being worshipped here. They call a different name, but look at the devotion in their eyes. That's what my Lord and my friend is after.
thank you so much, Mother Acyuta. That reminds me of the story of the Ramayana. Now, the Supreme Lord once appeared as Lord Ramachandra, which is some millions years ago. And he had two beloved sons, Love and Kush.
Mm-hmm.
And Love and Kush, they also had lots of descendants. And some of the descendants of Kush settled in Ethiopia, in Africa. And so there is a tribe in Ethiopia called the Kushites.
Yeah.
And they descend from Kush. So generally we are all one. So thank you so much, Mother Acyuta. Yeah. So we go to Mr. Kwesi. Please unmute and then
Kwesi cannot unmute because it's not a mic.
oh, he's not. Okay. Kush
So,
Prabhu. Okay, go ahead. Kush Prabhu.
Yes,
Yeah.
Madam Hare Krishna. My question is from the verse of today.
Mm-hmm.
The verse where it says, from the purports, let me share the screen. From the purports is, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a line. Here is my question. There are so many things manufactured by human energy, but they are all meant for sense enjoyment and not for getting out of material bondage. So can you throw more light on this for the seekers who are around? What is sense enjoyment? What is material bondage?
Mm.
Why must we get out of material bondage?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Yeah, this material bondage is the constant measuring of good actions, bad actions, good reactions, bad reactions. And what I do here will determine the further reactions of what happens to me in the future. And once we start understanding that, like we have an idea of karma now, like karma is a widespread ideology, except for now it's kind of turned into a very cool thing to put on memes when you break up with somebody and you just wait around and hope that karma will get them. Actually, this idea of karma is just a balancing scale, constantly recalibrating and rebalancing the actions and reactions of material nature. This is not a new idea for us, right? There are scientists. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. We've accepted that. This is the actual law of karma. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. There's a concomitant reaction. So we are finding that usually most people stop at it is enough. When we do good things, then good things come back to us. And when we do bad things, then bad things come back to us. It's enough for people to think that. But then there are seekers who say, well, then why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad people get off with just a slap on the wrist? This is what these sages are saying. There's a personality of Kali who was beating mercilessly a cow. These cows were sacred. This cow was none other than a manifested form of the goddess of the earth and a manifested form of religion. This person was beating these cows and all they got was a slap on the wrist? That doesn't sound like karma balancing at all. What kind of a place is this? So then we start looking deeper. And that's when we get into the ideas of material bondage and the entanglement within material bondage. And it really is entangling. And the example I can give is I have or had a friend who was very much a vegan. And they were saying, you know, that's it. I have to be a vegan. And they would refuse so much. They were like, I don't even have a cell phone because, and they had their justifications for why they didn't have a cell phone. And we would always ask, but do you drive a car? They would say, well, yeah, I mean, I have to, but I don't really want to. So I'm not even going to own a car. I was like, okay, but do you take public transportation? Yeah. Well, where do you think the money goes for that? The money goes back into this governmental pool. That governmental pool is still supporting slaughterhouses, still supporting leather makers, still supporting people who are doing things that are against your own ideologies. And so they'd say, oh, you know, you bhakti people, you know, you're not looking at things properly. And actually what we are realizing is that this material existence is much more entangling than we could ever hope to make sense of. This maze is bigger than us. That is why it's so important that we try and take shelter of Krishna. Because Krishna says, if you don't take shelter of me, that's fine. But then you're on your own under the stringent laws of material nature. Stringent, they're strong, they hurt, they are intense, they are cutting. These laws are absolute. So we can think, oh, I'm doing everything. You could join every PETA protest. But the minute we get on a plane, the plane manufacturers are now paying other people who give them sometimes leather seats, who then are giving money to slaughterhouses. The minute we get on public transportation, okay, the money is going to the government and the government has allotted taxes and all this allotment for the upkeep of these different businesses, which then goes back to slaughterhouses. If you buy a car, you're like, well, I didn't buy the one with the leather seats, but that company is still making cars with leather seats. So the money that you just paid still goes into that bigger pool, which goes back to supporting all of these killing of animals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You are buying into it. You're like, but I don't want to buy into it. Exactly. That is the entanglement. When we are not taking shelter of Krishna, we are lost in this entanglement of material nature. So we are trying to manufacture all of these things to make ourselves more comfortable. right? There are all these things. And you see it around your house. You get a vacuum cleaner to make your job of cleaning the house easier. But then the vacuum cleaner breaks, and then you've got more problem than you had before. You get the indoor plumbing to make life easier. But then the plumbing has an issue, and then it backs up the pipes not only in your house, but if you're in an apartment building, the person above you, the person below you, now there's leaks going through the ceiling, all kinds of stuff. And now 3 people and 3 families are upset when we try to make a situation to help ourselves be more comfortable. We are saying, okay, let me manufacture a car to help get me from point A to point B smoother. But then the car breaks down, then we have so many more things. We got to pay extra, do all this stuff. Srila Prabhupada is not saying we should not do these things. He's saying, where's our focus? We are constantly focusing on, how can I be more comfortable? How can I be more comfortable? How can I be more comfortable? Rather than, wait a second. Every time I've tried to make myself more comfortable in this material world, it only works flickeringly for a short amount of time, and then I got to do something else. I have to make another plan to make myself more comfortable. When will I figure out that the actual problem is that I'm entangled in this material world? How can I figure out a way to get out of that problem? So Srila Prabhupada is urging us to focus on what is our actual focus? Are we just trying to be comfortable in this decorated prison, which is the material world, which is always going to have calamities and issues, bad things happening to good people, injustices, oppression, etc., etc., etc.? Or are we actually looking at this going, wait a minute, this has been happening from the beginning of time. How do I get out of this situation?
Thank you so much, Mother Acyuta. There is one question in the chat room from Miss Becky, Rebecca Tag. Now, she wants to find out, Mother Acyuta, like Srila Prabhupada's famous japa tape, wherein Srila Prabhupada says, sit properly. So Miss Rebecca Tay is asking, what is the proper posture to chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? That's the question.
What's interesting is Srila Prabhupada recommends sit properly. And how many times have we seen, there are pictures and photos of Srila Prabhupada, and he's kind of like lounging, still japa beads in hand, right? And so sometimes he's walking. And so he even says, because somebody asks him, when do you finish your japa? Srila Prabhupada says, japa, it's never finished. You see, we are on a walk. And after this walk, I'll continue chanting. After this topic, my students, they're still chanting. So when he says sit properly, when we are making that concerted effort to focus on Krishna, it's like anything else. When we are in school and we are really trying to focus on something in school, when we sit there in front of the teacher, if the teacher is giving a lecture, would we actually sit up in the front row and then fall asleep? That would be really disrespectful. I mean, some people do it, but it would be disrespectful. Likewise, if we were in the presence of the prime minister of our country or the president of our country, how would we sit? Srila Prabhupada says that when we are chanting japa, when we are calling on the names of God, we are invoking the presence of God to be with us in that moment. So then how do we sit? How do we act? Where's our focus? Do we care? Are we acting as if God is present there right then? Or are we lazy about it? Now, there are sometimes if you are chanting all day, every day, then sometimes the posture changes. But for our prescribed amount of rounds, at least for some of the time, we can remind ourselves Krishna is here. He's the president of the entire creation. How would I sit? How would I act if President Barack Obama, because forever he will be the president that I reference, If President Barack Obama said, I want to have a meeting with you, I want you to tell me a little something about this meditation that you've been doing, we'd be on our best behavior. Oh, of course, sir, no problem. We'd sit up straight. We'd say, okay, this is what we have to do. You sit up straight. You sit with a nice tall back. Would you sit there and say, oh, President, hey, it's fine. You just, if you lounge and you kind of murmur, would we express it to the president like that? No, we'd give the best explanation that we could muster. We would research it. We would take a deep breath, every word is clear, every syllable pronounced. Then why, when it's just us and Krishna, do we say, fine? It's a throwaway. So when Srila Prabhupada is urging us to sit properly, it's so that we don't throw away this opportunity. So we don't become cavalier, careless about this opportunity. And so if thinking of Krishna being present is not enough, how would we chant if the president asked us, can you teach me something about this chanting? So at least for a little bit of the time, we can act as though we are instructing the president on this process of chanting. And then the rest of the time we do our best. But at least for a little time, we can sit properly and act as though the people that we admire are there with us in the room.
Thank you so much, Mother Acyuta. We're sorry keeping you longer than usual, but if you still have a couple more minutes, I think there is one question I saw here and one comment that also may require your, like you addressing it, because the first question I saw here is, where is it? Okay, let me go to this comment from iPhone 3. He or she, I don't know who it is, is saying that, thanks so much, lady, on meat and how we are all involved in animal slaughtering. Our leather shoes to our leather car seats, home seats, etc. May Krishna have mercy on us. Mother Acyuta, I would like you to shed a little bit light on this comment, because even though there are certain things that are unavoidable and there is nothing much we can do, but there may be other things that we may also be able to avoid. What do we do in that situation?
Yeah, we have to look at the things that are good for our own rehabilitation. We are constantly in a place of spiritual rehab. And so we see there's a lot of rules and regulations when you get to this Krishna consciousness movement thing. We've got 4 key ones, but there's so many little things that go into there. And we can think, if everything I do is entangling, why do we have these rules and regulations? They're to help us with our spiritual rehab. We have to try and do what is best for our spiritual selves to get to the place where we'd like to be. It might not change the material world. In fact, it usually won't change the material world. That has nothing to do with it. We're not trying to change the world. We are trying to uplift our spiritual selves. We are really trying to get to a place where we can remember who we are and what our core values were supposed to be. And that was uplifting our minds to a much more spiritual mindset. And so when we think of ahimsa or nonviolence, a lot of times people think, go vegan. And His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj also says that, wait a second though, that ahimsa, that nonviolence has to do with non-enviousness. How are we acting toward other living entities? Not just the animal living entities, the people living entities too. Are we speaking to them using these violent words, these violent thought processes? Are we being envious of them? Are we projecting our enviousness upon them? That also is part of ahimsa or nonviolence. Not just how we're treating other animals, but how we're treating each other, how we're treating ourselves. Are we constantly living in a place where we are punishing ourselves? That too will not be conducive to us gaining a spiritual mindset. So we try to do these things which encourage us to be non-envious, which encourage us to think compassionately towards other living entities as a whole and ourselves as spirit souls. So this idea of no meat eating, no eating of meat or fish or eggs, and we think, yeah, but if it's all entangling, then what's that for? That is for our spiritual rehab. Because the more that we play into that, the more it affects our consciousness. But likewise, if we become a militant vegetarian or a militant vegan, that also is negatively affecting our consciousness and our mindset. If we are cutting down other people with our words, that is similarly as violent. And it's going to affect our consciousness and our spiritual rehabilitation. If we're thinking no gambling, and we think about the lying and the cheating and the deception that goes along with it, it's like, but if everything is entangling, what's the point? The point is, what do we really want? That constant lying and the cheating mentality, this constant deceptive mentality, is going to negatively impact our spiritual consciousness and further drag us away from our rehabilitation. We are trying to rehabilitate ourselves out of this material existence and toward a spiritual existence, which can bring us much more lasting happiness. So this is why when you come in contact with Hare Krishnas in this movement, etc., you'll have so many rules and regulations. And it can think like, but if it's all for nothing, if there's no fixing this place, what's the point? Our purpose is not to fix this material world, it's to get out of it. We cannot get out of it unless we raise our consciousness and we spiritually rehabilitate ourselves. We come to the platform where we're understanding, this place is messed up, but I'm a spirit soul not meant for this place. I must find a way to get out of that. And so there are people who do drink, and then there are alcoholics who know they can never drink again. That will not be good for my rehabilitation. So now we can understand some people will eat meat, and then we might understand that for my spiritual rehabilitation, I can never do that again. It will upset the balance of my consciousness. I cannot maintain that balance. I am in rehabilitation. We have to understand what our limitations are and the kind of rehabilitation that we're into and how we can gain our spiritual consciousness and our spiritual existence. So this is why we have rules and regulations that are supposed to help us, even though it may not fix or change this material existence.
Thank you so much, Mother Acyuta. Can you take one or two more questions?
One.
Okay, one. Okay. So I think we're going to take Miss Annie to be the last person to have a question asked. And we can't say how much, we can't really express how much we appreciate your presence here, Mother Acyuta. Miss Annie, please unmute. Okay, good.
Hi.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for allowing me to ask this question. And I would like to thank Prabhu Jana Chachudas for introducing me to this awareness. I'm also a Christian and I didn't know all this until I met Prabhu Jana Chachudas. And we are trying our best to follow him to get more information and more education and knowledge too. And this afternoon, I'm so glad because this is my first time of hearing a lady on your platform speaking to us. I've been following you all the time. We come to the Zoom meeting and most of the time, men. And today I'm happy to see a lady, a woman, and I'm so happy. So thank you, our mother. But my question is, how has your journey been? Being a woman, like going through all this before you were able to get to where you are now. Because, you know, women, we have a whole lot. We have husbands, some of us are married already. And, you know, getting through it is not going to be easy, I know. So I want to know her journey. Was she married before he got in? Or she, whatever it is, I want her to share and encourage most of the women to on this platform for us to know we can also get there. Thank you so much, and may God bless you too. Bye. And I'm Anita, sorry, from US, Maryland.
Oh,
Oh, you
wow.
are in Maryland. Okay.
All right.
Maryland. Okay. Mother Acyuta is in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So not so far. Just
Yeah,
about
not so far. Yeah.
the journey for anybody is going to go up, down, all around, sideways, diagonal. And we can think, that's just my journey. Why does life have to be so difficult for me? It's actually incredibly difficult for everyone. My journey has not been without difficulties. Luckily, I was born into a family of devotees. And it's been an intense journey either way. You know, you wind up looking at a very unconventional life, not just a person in a female body within this Hare Krishna movement, but in a black female body. That's not often the case. And so it's not been a journey that has been just without difficulty. But what I can say is, somebody asked me this morning, they said, "How are you, Acyuta?" I said, "I'm surrounded by mercy." And they said, "Whoa, where did that come from?" I said, "I'm trying something new." Rather than just saying, "No, I'm good, I'm okay," I really want to look at my actual position. I'm surrounded by mercy. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam is telling all of us that no matter what we are going through, we are surrounded by mercy. The minute we come into gatherings like this, Krishna consciousness can become the great equalizer between socioeconomic backgrounds, between money, between status, between gender, between whatever it is. Krishna consciousness, if we allow it, can become the great equalizer. Does that mean you will see it everywhere, even within Krishna consciousness? No. But just like the material world, all we can do is manage our space. So likewise, within spirituality, all we can do is manage our space. There was something that I've been working on for the past few years that I learned from looking at different tarot readings. And some people might say, wait, tarot readings? That doesn't sound very Krishna conscious. It is when I do them. But looking at different tarot readings, so many people say, take what resonates, leave the rest. So we have to enter into these different areas of association. And we have to be willing to look at people's versions of spirituality and accept what resonates, and then put the rest on the side for further research, for further deliberation later. But sometimes we have to protect ourselves by taking what resonates, because we will find so many situations. There will be prejudice, there will be oppression, there will be all of these different things, even within spiritual communities, especially within spiritual communities. And so you think, I've gotten to a place where they say, you are not this body. I found it, jackpot. And then there are still people. Devotees of Krishna are simply people who happen to know a name, one name, for the divine person. That's it. And so we might be tempted to put everybody on a pedestal, thinking, oh, but you're here, you've been practicing for so long, you're doing this. And then we get the rude awakening that they are also just people struggling within the entanglements of this material world. So for all of us who are leading unconventional lives, We've been chosen, handpicked by the Supreme Person, because somebody will see, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. Somebody will see, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And so people ask me, how did you do it? Well, the help of my friends. One friend, one day, after born into this movement, it wasn't until after I was 30 something that someone said, would you like to give a lecture? 30 something years of practicing Krishna consciousness, and somebody says, would you like to talk about Krishna? Maybe you have something to add. I was a Sunday school teacher for several years, and not until after somebody says, would you like to give a lecture? Maybe you have some thoughts that you can add. And then after that, I started speaking on my own social media platforms, thinking, you know what? There's already a ready-made space for me that nobody else can control. And so I've gotten several situations and instances of many, many ladies who say, I want to give a lecture, but there's no space for me. I'm like, but you're writing me from Facebook. What's stopping you from going live on Facebook? Oh, well, I don't know. I'm too shy. I'm like, well, but you just told me you want somebody to ask you to give a lecture in front of people, and you're not even ready to go live on your own Facebook? If your platform is not for you, where will you find a platform? So where there's a will, there's a way. And where there's that determination and that will to endeavor, is Krishna being willing to also reciprocate with us. So if we find that we want to speak about Krishna and we think we have no other platform, there's nothing stopping us from going live on our own platforms, from setting up our own Zoom meetings, from going and sitting on the steps of our own homes and reading out loud Krishna book. And it can be as simple as that. Well, what if I don't have all the realizations yet? Perfect. Makes you relatable. Because then when people come and they say, well, I have questions about this and I have questions about this, then you say, you're right. I have questions about it too. Let's together go and find somebody who might have an answer. Keeps us humble, keeps us relatable. And that inspires faith in other people. Just from being in the association of one person who says, I have a place where we can find some answers. There are over 100 people in this Zoom meeting. Because of one or two or three people who said, we can get together and find some answers. Let's all get together and find some answers. Let's hear from some people who might have a viewpoint or a perspective. And lo and behold, we're all here today. I was really looking, and it's consistently over 90 people in this Zoom room. And more listening on YouTube. How amazing is that? Just from a few people who had the courage to say, let's all get together and find some answers together. So these platforms are so important for all of us to take to the process and say, bravely, I'm a spiritual person. This is what I've found that is working for me in my spirituality. And then bravely further to say, I might not have all the answers, but maybe we can find some if we all gather together. Life's not going to be easy for any of us. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be drawbacks. There are going to be relationships with other people that we think, this is too much. This is just too much. How am I supposed to balance all of this? We try our best. And we call out to God in whichever name we hold dearest. Whichever form that we hold dearest. And we say, oh my Lord, I'm coming to you. I can't handle this, so I'm surrendering it. You tell me, what's the next step? Arjuna has prayed in Bhagavad Gita, I'm losing all composure. I don't know which way to turn. I don't know what to do. So now I'm coming to you. You, Lord, you, my friend, you tell me for certain. Don't beat around the bush. Don't give me some strange cryptic answer. Tell me for certain what's best for me. I'm now a soul surrendered unto you. Whether we know about the backstory of Bhagavad Gita or not, that is a sentiment that we can all agree with. Oh my Lord, Oh, Supreme Person, I have no idea which way to turn or where to go. I'm asking you, I'm in this situation now. You tell me for certain what's best for me. I'm a soul surrendered unto you. And Srila Prabhupada says, miraculously, Krishna will speak with you. He didn't say, not you in the form of your pastor, not you in the form of this person and this person and this person of authority over there. He said, you. Where we are inquiring sincerely, Krishna will speak to us. Sometimes he leads us into these gatherings where we meet other people who seem to have a deeper understanding. They've been through some of these pitfalls. But Krishna can and will speak to every single one of us because he is seated in every single heart. And that for me is enough. Keeps me going every day. When times get rough and when I feel like I don't know where to turn, I take shelter of the fact that Krishna is right there, watching every single thing that I'm going through, and not as an indifferent observer, not uncaring, not unfeeling. Krishna's there watching everything that I'm going through and saying, when will you just ask me for help? Oh, my little soul, I'm waiting for the time where you turn and ask me for help because I don't want to overstep your free will. Just ask me, please. It hurts Krishna to see us go through all of these trials and tribulations. But as long as we don't turn our face and say, okay, Krishna, I give up, help, Krishna will not overstep the bounds of our free will. So this journey has been 37 years long in the process so far, thankfully. And each day is my chance to recommit to that spiritual journey. Come what may. Because the things will come. But I get to recommit to that spiritual journey with the faith that I am surrounded by mercy. Even when things are coming, somehow I'm surrounded by mercy. We're all of us surrounded by mercy and blessings. We are favored, highly favored, by the Supreme Person, handpicked to be at this place at this time, taking shelter with one another. So we are in the best place we could ever be, in the best situation we could ever be in. Even if we think life is in a tornado around us, we are under the shelter and the umbrella of the Supreme Person. So I hope that was encouraging.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother Acyuta Devi. You've answered questions for around 75 minutes. That's amazing, just questions and answers. So those who had questions in the chat room, we're sorry we will not be able to take them today, but hopefully in the very near future, we may be able to do that. Those of you who may not know Mother Acyuta, our revered speaker today, she is a globally renowned speaker on the scriptures and also a very wonderful singer. Mother Acyuta, are we seeing you this weekend in Giranagri? Yay! Wonderful, good. So at this point, we're going to humbly request each and everyone to kindly unmute, and then we chant a big Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation for Mother Acyuta's presence. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pasando biyahe vacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavibhyo, Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama.
I don't know, some bugs or whatever disturbing me.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Hare Krishna.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, 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 Bhajamana Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Bhajamana Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda. Oh, Radha Govinda Radhe, Radha Govinda Radhe, Bhagavana Radha Govinda Bhajamana Radha Govinda Radhe, Radha Govinda Radhe.
Yeah, I'm doing some. I want to be a lawyer. I want to catch these stupid men around who are raping young girls.
Bhajamana Radha Govinda Radhe, Radha Govinda Radhe. Govinda Adi Purusha, Tamam Bhajame. Govindam Adi Purusha, Tamam Bhajame.
Zu Hause. Das ist dieser eine Ort, den wir in unserem Herzen tragen. Manchmal bringt uns eine Erinnerung dorthin. Ein Klang, der sich sofort nach zu Hause anfühlt. Oder ein besonders vertrauter Geschmack. Genießt ein Schlückchen zu Hause. Mit Vio. Aus natürlichem Mineralwasser der Lüneburger Heide.
Wir haben das Haus hier 2012 gebaut. Mein Sohn und ich allein.
Bajalo kol, gana gana tahe janjera ro. Preme dala dala shonara yanga, charane nupura baje. Preme dala dala shonara. ki koro bhavana ke ho ebe na bajile jasoda suta chara me pori bela sadhana kan jagate asiye moduyana jivera kalyana sadhana kan jagate asiye moduyana o vidya timira tapana rupe ridga gan viraje vidya timira tapana rupe ridga gan Krishna nam shudha kori apan jurao bhakti vinoda pran Krishna nam shudha kori apan jurao bhakti vinoda pran Nam bina kichu nahi koyaro chauda bhuvana maje I'm
going back.
Chandra bole Kotha nidra jao maya pisachi rakole Kotha nidra jao maya pisachi Bajibo boliya ese samsara bitore Bajibo boliya ese samsara bitore Buliya rohile tumi Ovidya rabore Tomare loite ami hainu yavatara Tomare loite ami hainu yavatara Ami bina bandhu yara ke ache tomara Ami bina bandhu yara ke ache tomara Eneche aushodi maya nashi baralagi Eneche aushodi maya nashi baralagi Hari Nama Maha Mantra Lao Tumi Magi Hari Nama Maha Mantra Lao Tumi Magi Bhakati Vinoda Prabhu Charane Poriya Say Harinama Mantra Loilo Magiya Say Harinama Mantra Loilo Magiya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Viele Menschen leiden unter Nackenverspannungen, Rückenschmerzen und Müdigkeit. Eine